From the nation's capital, we bring you a report of special interest to the people of the state of New York. Let's look at Congress with Senator Kenneth B. Keating and his distinguished guest this week. Now, your Senator Kenneth B. Keating.
This is Senator Ken Keating. Welcome again to Let's Look at Congress. My guest today is one of the best-known voices and faces in the history of American radio and television. He pioneered in these fields and became literally a household word for excellence. He now holds one of the key positions in the Kennedy administration, Director of the United States Information Agency. As the man in charge of presenting America's image abroad, he will have a vital influence on the future course of our nation. It's a great pleasure to welcome to this program the Honorable Edward R. Murrow. Ed, I'm delighted to have you here to talk with us today. You're on the receiving end now instead of the asking end.
You know, Senator, it takes a little while to become accustomed to trying to answer questions rather than asking them.
It's a lot easier to ask. Tell me, what are the main objectives of the United States Information Program?
Well, I think I could sum them up very quickly by saying that it is our purpose to make United States policy everywhere intelligible and, wherever possible, palatable, to explain not only what we do, but why we do it, and to attempt to demonstrate through all the mass media that we have here a system which other free men may choose to emulate. I think that's a brief capsule of it.
A very good summary. Are we winning the world propaganda battle with the communists?
I don't think anyone can say who is winning. I think it is trite but true to say that good policy makes good propaganda and good news. As you know, in terms of total broadcast hours, we stand not first but fourth. We are behind Russia, China, and the United Arab Republic. In certain areas, we are, in the vernacular, outgunned. For example, the communist bloc countries will produce more books in translation in foreign countries in a given year than will we. And in certain areas we make progress, in others we lose a little ground. But what we do, what we are able to do, is to a very large extent determined by what actually happens in this country. For example, the developments in Alabama. In the old days, before I began to work for the government, I might have thought that picture of the burning bus had merely been well-centered and the photographer had been very alert. I look at it now in terms of the knowledge that that will be a front-page picture around half the world within 24 hours. So to a very large extent, what we can do is determined by what we are and what we do here.
Are you trying to, or how are you handling the recent Supreme Court decisions cracking down on the Communist Party in this country?
Well, the first thing we're doing is quite obvious. We are reporting it. We then are saying in substance that this means that we have reaffirmed a traditional attitude on this country, on the part of this country, namely that this is no way an impairment of the traditional right of United States citizens to agitate for peaceful change. And we are also indicating that this is additional proof that subversion, illegal subversion, will not be tolerated. In short, we are saying this is a reaffirmation of traditional United States principles and practices.
Last year we heard a good deal about prestige polls. Are you still running any kind of prestige polls?
We are not running any prestige polls. They were referred to variously as prestige or barometer polls. I think you would agree, Senator Keating, that prestige is not a very exact word. We are still using polling techniques. We are, for example, trying to find out in a given country the areas of concern, of misconception, of curiosity, in order that we can use our various media to answer those questions, to allay in some way the suspicions. But it seemed to us of no real purpose to conduct a rating service as to the relative popularity of Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Khrushchev in a given area. We want to use research and, in a sense, polls to find out how effective a job we're doing with television, with books, with radio in a given area. But the prestige polls as such we have abandoned, and incidentally, We made that decision on February 15th.
Are the communists spending more on their overseas propaganda than we are?
It's very difficult to get at the accurate figures. They obviously are spending very much more than we are. They are spending...
They're doing more.
Yes, and they are spending probably as much as our total budget on their jamming operations alone. We think, although we cannot prove, that Castro, for example, is spending as much money in Latin America as are we. As I mentioned a moment ago, their publication of books in non-communist bloc languages is very much greater than ours.
Do you have plans for stepped-up activity of your own in such trouble spots as Latin America?
Well, we do indeed. We purpose to spend the major part of the additional funds we receive in Africa and in Latin America. For example, starting the 1st of July, we will be operating our shortwave television for 18 hours in Spanish to Latin America, as contrasted with 6 now. We will be operating 4 hours a day in Portuguese to Brazil, as compared to half an hour now. But there is one thing about the Latin American operation I think that ought to be borne in mind, and that is the fact that we get a great deal of local placement on local medium wave transmitters. We get, for example, I think direct relay on about 234 stations in Latin America. We also have a weekly television program that is seen in 15 countries in Latin America by an audience that is estimated at 10 million.
What about Laos and the Far East? Will there be any stepped-up activity in that area?
There will indeed. We will beef up our transmitters in the Philippines and elsewhere in an effort to do more broadcasting, more pamphlets to Laos, to Thailand, and to South Vietnam.
The Vice President, when he came back, had some criticism of USIA operations in the Far East. Do you have any plans to do anything about that, or to make a tour of the Far East?
I am, at the first opportunity. I have had only a brief conversation with the Vice President. I do not know the details of his criticism, but I imagine this operation, like any other, can stand improvement.
Do you know, have you any idea when you might be going there?
I don't know at the moment, but within a matter of the next month or two.
And do you know what countries you would visit there?
I do not now. I shall obviously go to Japan and to most of the countries of Southeast Asia.
The communists have been intensifying their activities in Africa, have they?
Yes, they have indeed. And what they do in Africa, in some cases, they will make a long-term loan, and then they will say, you would like a television transmitter or a radio transmitter, we'll give it to you. Schools, hospitals, that sort of thing. The competition in Africa is very keen and ruthless. And we have there a continent where people are shopping about for new allegiances, new ideas.
What can we do to meet that challenge in Africa?
Well, in the first place, I think we must meet this terrible hunger for knowledge. The people who want books. We opened a small library in Africa not long ago with the usual 1,500 volumes. And in a matter of weeks, the shelves were stripped bare. On another occasion, before we opened our library, there were 3 policemen, I believe, standing outside to hold back the crowd, and when the doors were opened, the 3 policemen were the first ones in because they wanted to be sure to get the books. This is a matter of using mobile operations, of sending film projectors into the back country. It's a matter of supplying news to newspapers that frequently are cut off from any of the normal wire services. It's a question of using all media in an effort simply to convey information. We are also doing one thing that is interesting and I think very productive. We do a half-hour film, which is primarily a case of reporting Africa to itself. For example, we found a public health project in the Sudan, which had been in part financed by United States money. We did a film takeout on that and showed it to the rest of Africa, and that was a much more graphic demonstration that Africans themselves in Africa can do something to improve their own lot.
Now I want to turn to a little bit different inquiry. In addition to the film exchange, which is already underway, What progress is being made on our cultural exchange with the Russians?
A group of Russian broadcasters and television individuals have been invited to come here early in July. We do not yet know whether they will come. A similar group of Americans will be going to the Soviet Union.
If they come here, I suppose.
That's right. That's right. We also have now, operating in the Soviet Union, an exhibition having to do with the plastics industry in the United States. Later in the year, there will be another dealing with transportation and yet another with medicine in the United States. This is a very slow process, and in dealing with the Russians, one can never be quite sure whether the group is going to arrive or whether the exhibition is going to arrive until the last moment.
How is the information agency capitalizing on the worldwide growth of television?
Well, we are expanding our television operation. We are, in some cases, placing material on television stations in countries that are not exactly favorably disposed towards us because they require the material. One of the difficulties, of course, in the field of television is that we do not have in the agency the in-house capability of producing more than a limited number of documentaries. Therefore, what we hope to be able to do is to, one, acquire the products of the television stations, and secondly, to distribute them. Because there are many things done on television in this country that can be very usefully employed, not only on television abroad, but in some of the more primitive movie houses as well.
That leads into my next question. What can the private communications media, such as radio and TV, do to assist your agency in its work?
Two things, I would think. The first is, as I suggested, to make available to us some of their better documentaries, things such as NBC's White Paper, CBS Views the Press, 20th Century, that sort of thing. And let us distribute those in areas where there does not exist a possibility of a normal commercial sale. Another thing that might be helpful, and I appreciate here, Senator, that I am on very dangerous grounds, and I would like to preface this by saying that never under any circumstances would I suggest, or would anyone in this government suggest, that there should be any law, any regulations prohibiting the free export of news or information. However, it does seem to me that in both television and the movies, the people who produce the material might very well have regard not only for the income but for the impact, and that some care should be exercised in the type of material we send abroad, both in terms of film and in terms of television.
You referred to the civil rights incident in Alabama and how those incidents damage our image abroad. Are there other things that give us a black eye?
Discrimination of any kind in this country. Some of our export in the field of films, by no means all of it. I don't think anyone can strike a balance as to how helpful the export of movies is.
We're getting close to the end of the time, and I just want to ask you, do you have any future plans in politics?
In politics?
Yeah.
No, certainly not.
Thank you very much. My guest today, ladies and gentlemen, has been Mr. Edward R. Murrow, the Director of the United States Information Agency.